ancient forest, the tree sawing team was carrying all kinds of machines, hand saws, electric saws, chain saws. The "hurrah" sound echoed like a forest rock orchestra. But before they could start, a pair of bright eyes appeared from the bushes. It was Nye, the curious observer. The deer was not like other animals that were afraid of the sound of machinery. On the contrary, it was curious, walking out proudly, its curved antlers sparkling in the sunlight. The whole team sawing the tree opened their mouths. Wow, how is the deer so bold? A worker thought Nye was asking for wood. He waved his hand, and Nye neighed as if to say hello. The tree-cutting team suddenly burst out laughing, nicknamed Nye Forest Boss because of his majestic appearance. While some people wanted to chase Nye away because he was dangerous, others wanted to keep him as the team mascot. The debate was so heated that Nye sat chewing on leaves, nodding his head like a judge listening to a trial. foreman came up with an idea: let Nye be the guide, he knows the forest better than anyone. The whole team burst out laughing, and Nye flicked his tail, as if in agreement. Nye led the team around the forest, pointing out safe trails, places with beehives or snake nests. The tree sawing team was confused. We thought we were guiding him, but he was guiding us. The sawing team was about to cut down a large oil tree. The deer hit the tree hard and ran around it, neighing loudly. They immediately realized, this tree was a bird shelter and could not be cut down. From then on, the deer became an honorary forest ranger. That day, the whole team lit a fire and sang songs. The deer slowly came and sat nearby, the firelight illuminating their curved antlers like crowns. The tree sawing team felt as if a forest god was supervising. A naughty worker tried to compete with Nye in pulling a heavy log. The result, Nye only needed to give him a light push and he was able to push it a meter away. The team laughed and called Nye a four-legged weightlifter. The rain poured down, the team had not yet set up camp. The deer immediately ran to a dense old tree and signaled. The team crawled in to take shelter, escaping the drenched scene. Everyone was amazed. One night, thousands of fireflies filled the sky. The tree-cutting team was afraid they would mistake them for a swarm of bees. A deer walked out leisurely, standing in the flickering light, making the whole team realize it was a firefly night. While sawing, a tree swerved and almost fell on the group of workers. The deer rushed out, hit hard, and changed direction, knocking the tree down. The whole team escaped, vowing to always listen to the deer's warnings from now on. One day, the tree sawing team and I sat in a circle. Some talked about the economic benefits of wood, while Nye nibbled on leaves instead of giving a speech. But everyone understood that exploitation must also preserve life. A worker hung his helmet on a deer's horn. The deer neighed loudly and ran around the forest wearing the special helmet, making the whole team laugh. One morning, a group of monkeys came to snatch food. Deer stood in front of the group, his horns shining. When the monkeys saw their big friend, they dispersed. From then on, Deer acted as their bodyguard. The saw team built a wooden bridge across the stream. Deer was the first to try it. He walked slowly, the bridge was sturdy, and the whole team cheered as if they had just inaugurated a big project. The fog was thick and the team lost their way. The deer went ahead, its antlers shining in the fog like a lighthouse. Thanks to that, the team found their way back to camp. Nye led the team to a new forest, full of bamboo, vines, and clear streams. The tree-cutting team was excited, having both wood and a beautiful view to rest. The team decided to hold a forest festival to thank Nye. There were drums from empty barrels, music from saws, and singing that echoed far and wide. The deer danced, their horns sweeping around like a lion dance. At the end of the adventure, the sawing team stood around Nye, promising to exploit the trees properly and never cut them down indiscriminately. The Nye neighed loudly, as if the forest had agreed. From then on, the team and Nye became symbols of harmony between humans and nature in Fu Chan.